Yes, thank you, Flor. Thank you, Flor, and thank you for the ODC team for the invite. I will present in Spanish because I don't want to miss any detail on this project, but I can answer your questions in English as well. So don't worry. Can you confirm that you see my screen now? Yeah, you
Yes.
see it? Okay, great. Thank you. So my bio was already shared with you guys. I'm a founder and CEO of Datamorfosis. I'm a data policy specialist. And this project that I will share with you now was part of a working group, a collaboration between the CAF, Banco de Desarrollo para América Latina, and PIT Policy Lab here in Mexico. So I'm going to switch to Spanish now. Okay. Para el tema de gobernanza de datos, creo que para nosotros fue súper importante empezar a reconocer cómo se ha transformado la agenda de datos en la región y en general en el mundo, ¿no? Es como muy importante dejar muy claro el concepto porque así como el tema de gobierno abierto, datos abiertos, gobierno digital, gobernanza digital, política digital, todos estos son conceptos similares, pero que al final hablan de cosas distintas y se siguen confundiendo hoy en día. Entonces, cuando hablamos de gobernanza de datos, sí creo que es muy importante primero entender cuál es el término de gobernanza. Y podemos encontrar muchas definiciones en Internet. De hecho, creo que la RAE incluso hizo un ajuste en la definición, la Real Academia Española hizo un ajuste en su definición. Antes tenía una que era la acción y efecto de gobernar, que es algo muy sencillo, ¿no? Y la deja presente en su página, pero la pone en desuso y hace un pequeño ajuste en esta transformación también de gobernanza, como la forma de gobernar, especialmente si es eficiente y adecuada para los fines que se persiguen, lo cual se me hace muy interesante porque cuando aplicamos esta definición de gobernanza a la gobernanza de datos, todo hace mucho más sentido. Entonces, cuando hablamos de gobernanza de datos, nos referimos al marco de gestión que garantiza que los datos correctos se recopilen, utilicen y compartan de la manera correcta. Y hay hay dos partes en esta frase que resultan muy importantes. Los datos correctos y la manera correcta. ¿Por qué? Porque también la misma agenda de datos que ha evolucionado, que ya no solo estamos hablando hoy en día de datos abiertos, sino que hemos reconocido que muchos tipos de datos son importantes y necesarios para entender los problemas públicos y para resolverlos. En este nuevo entendido también tenemos que ser mucho más estratégicos y más inteligentes en ver cuáles son estos datos importantes para entender los problemas y para tomar estas decisiones y cómo usarlos de la mejor manera para aprovechar mejor el tiempo, los recursos, los equipos y resolver problemas públicos de una forma más integral y de una forma también más rápida. La reciente pandemia global nos dejó el mejor ejemplo de que los datos deben de estar disponibles en tiempo real para poder tomar decisiones inmediatas frente a problemas tan complejos que requieren atención en ese momento, ¿no? Entonces, estos modelos de gobernanza que se están construyendo hoy en la región, ya en América Latina, y que toman como referencia también modelos de gobernanza de la Unión Europea, de UK, el principal objetivo es contestar estas 4 preguntas. El por qué necesitamos una visión, por cuál es la estrategia, hacia dónde se va, hacia dónde va esta estrategia de datos, cuál es la infraestructura, es decir, qué estamos gobernando, con qué datos contamos, con qué elementos también de tecnología ya se cuentan, quiénes son estos roles, cuáles son las responsabilidades, cuáles son los equipos, qué perfiles tienen, en dónde están ubicados, cuáles son las interacciones que hay entre los equipos, entre las personas, entre los que toman la decisión y entre los que operan y entre los que están usando día a día los datos y cómo, también cuáles son las reglas del juego para todos estos roles y para todos estos participantes, cuáles son los procesos, las herramientas, los estándares para construir este lenguaje común. Entonces, estos modelos de gobernanza y esta gobernanza de datos une todos los puntos que existen en el ecosistema. Ya no solo se trata de ubicar estos datos y de prepararlos para su publicación y de alguna forma fomentar su uso, sino que sienta las bases para que todos tengan un piso mínimo de entendimiento sobre los procesos y sobre las reglas para aprovechar mejor los datos y sobre todo para construir proyectos más sostenibles que perduren en el tiempo y que también estén pensados con una estrategia de sostenibilidad financiera, ¿no? Que muchas veces es una de las causas por las que muchos de estos proyectos mueren o no alcanzan los objetivos para los que fueron diseñados. Entonces, bueno, en 2021 el Gobierno Nacional de Colombia publica su estrategia nacional, su Plan Nacional de Infraestructura de Datos. Entonces inicia una colaboración entre el Banco de Desarrollo de América Latina, en México, Bitpol y SILAC, que es también una empresa de consultoría dedicada a temas de tecnología de interés público, y desde la parte de Colombia, estos tres actores. Esto también es muy relevante, o sea, no es un simple actor del gobierno, sino que el mismo gobierno de Colombia se empieza a articular con stakeholders a nivel nacional. Entonces toman este proyecto desde Presidencia de la República, junto con el Departamento Nacional de Planeación y el Ministerio de Tecnologías de la Información y las Comunicaciones. Entonces se arma este grupo de trabajo para empezar a atender lo que se establece en este Plan Nacional de Infraestructura de Datos. Este Plan Nacional tenía diversos principios relacionados con los datos, con la calidad, con la fácil búsqueda, accesibilidad, interoperabilidad, reutilización, los principios de la Carta Internacional de Datos Abiertos también, los temas de seguridad y protección de los datos, privacidad, por diseño y por defecto. El tema de confianza pública también era muy importante en este plan. Estandarización e interoperabilidad y la sectorización estratégica. Esto como principios rectores de todo este plan nacional. Pero también se determina ya cuál es la infraestructura de datos del gobierno de Colombia. Desde el plan nacional se reconoce que esta infraestructura está compuesta no solo por los datos públicos, sino que también existen otro tipo de datos, que de hecho el ODI tiene este espectro de los datos, ¿no? Que existe, que van desde los sensibles, los abiertos, los privados, etcétera. Entonces, ya el gobierno de Colombia establece que la infraestructura no solo se compone de estos datos abiertos que existan en un portal, sino que existen diversos tipos de datos que también son parte de su ecosistema, ¿no? Y establece el objetivo de la creación de un modelo de gobernanza para esta infraestructura, que era ya muy necesario, junto con una hoja de ruta para implementarlo. Entonces, comenzamos a trabajar en este modelo de gobernanza. Tiene 3 niveles, o sea, lo pensamos como 3 niveles que van desde lo estratégico, pasando por lo táctico, hasta el nivel operacional. El nivel estratégico, primero que nada, tiene elementos para la sostenibilidad y tiene estos 6 elementos que tratan de la sostenibilidad financiera, las políticas y los procesos, el equipo de gobernanza tal cual, o sea, quiénes van a ser los responsables, cuáles son los recursos de datos, es decir, cuáles son los activos de datos con los que cuenta el gobierno, cuáles son los activos también en términos de tecnología, cuáles son estos elementos de digitales y de tecnología a gobernar, y también cuáles son los elementos de colaboración multisectorial y transfronteriza que ya existen. Entonces, esta primera capa trata sobre el nivel estratégico para entender muy bien cuáles son los elementos de gobernanza y cómo cada uno va a tener que empezar a interactuar entre sí. Después viene un nivel táctico, porque para el gobierno de Colombia era muy importante establecer casos de uso y ser como muy inteligentes a la hora de decidir en qué proyectos invertir o cuáles son los datos más importantes a publicar, a compartir, etcétera. Entonces, en este segundo nivel se establece una estrategia de participación colaborativa en donde interactúan diversos stakeholders de la comunidad para establecer como las grandes metas o los grandes objetivos o los grandes proyectos que eran necesarios en el país. También un elemento de alineación a las prioridades de gobierno, que estos casos de uso y que estos proyectos en los que se invertirían, en los que se invertirían recursos públicos estuvieran alineados realmente a este nivel estratégico, ¿no? Al plan de desarrollo, a los planes sectoriales del gobierno, y también una metodología muy específica que trabajaron en otra consultoría para definir cuáles son los criterios que pueden servirle al gobierno para un caso de uso, para seleccionar un caso de uso. Entonces, este es un segundo nivel. Y ya en un tercer nivel ya vienen como los pilares de uso o el nivel operacional, que tiene que ver con los principios de interoperabilidad, principios de ética y uso responsable de la tecnología, el tema de seguridad y protección de los datos, las capacidades digitales y la calidad de estos datos. Y entonces, alineado a estos elementos y a estas tres capas, vienen también ciertos roles que se necesitaban crear en cada uno de estos niveles. Entonces, en un nivel estratégico, se propone la creación de un coordinador nacional de datos y la creación de un comité nacional de datos. Este comité conformado por actores del sector público, del sector social y del sector privado también. En el siguiente nivel, en el nivel táctico, se establece no como tal la creación, sino la designación de los administradores de datos. ¿Por qué? Porque no es necesario a veces crear nuevos roles, sino que estos administradores de datos ya existen en las administraciones públicas, ya existen en los gobiernos, son quienes son los responsables de cierto grupo de datos y que también son responsables de la recolección, del almacenamiento, de la actualización de estos datos. Entonces, la designación y el reconocimiento de estos administradores de datos. Se crea también un grupo de trabajo, un grupo técnico de trabajo de datos y un apoyo técnico y un grupo de apoyo técnico a la infraestructura de datos, ¿no? Es el equipo responsable de la ejecución de la política a nivel nacional y un equipo técnico especializado que pueda acompañar también la implementación dentro de los otros ministerios, ¿no? Y a nivel operativo, pues ya estos funcionarios, todas las personas y todos los usuarios que generan, que publican, que almacenan y que archivan datos. Entonces, también acompañado de estos elementos de gobernanza se crean estos roles y se identifican estos roles. Entonces, algunos de los productos que derivan de este proyecto, para empezar, pues fue como tal la publicación de este modelo de gobernanza y esto se publica a través de un decreto de presidencial. En un decreto se establecen cuál es este modelo de gobernanza, cuáles son estos roles que se crean y cuáles van a ser los participantes en este Comité Nacional de Datos, quién va a ser el Coordinador Nacional de Datos y dos productos adicionales también en donde se institucionaliza estos instrumentos. Por un lado, un decreto que establece el nombramiento de este líder nacional de datos, así como sus funciones, sus responsabilidades, las personas y los stakeholders con los que se debería de coordinar, y otro decreto presidencial para establecer la creación de este comité. Igualmente, sus responsabilidades, sus objetivos, quiénes van a ser los miembros, cuáles son el tipo de tareas a lo que les corresponde a este comité. Y algo interesante que sucedió fue que se crea también un grupo de trabajo permanente dentro del comité que tiene que ver con cuestiones de ética de datos. Entonces, una característica muy buena que se logra meter en este decreto presidencial es que se crearán grupos de trabajo de acuerdo a las problemáticas o de acuerdo al contexto, de acuerdo al contexto nacional y de acuerdo a problemáticas que estén sucediendo en ese momento. Pero el grupo permanente será el de ética. Y todos los grupos están conformados por representantes del sector público, de gobierno, del sector social y del sector privado. Entonces, estos productos fueron la forma en que se institucionalizó este modelo de gobernanza. De manera paralela también se creó una estrategia de sostenibilidad financiera que acompañó a estos productos y estas metodologías como para seleccionar cuáles eran los mejores casos de uso de datos. ¿Por qué? Porque todo el objetivo de este modelo de gobernanza y del Plan Nacional de Infraestructura de Datos, me voy a regresar tantito, era pensar muy bien qué datos eran los correctos y cuál era la mejor manera de utilizarlos. Entonces, todo va desde el Plan Nacional de Infraestructura de Datos, el modelo de gobernanza, estos nuevos roles y las responsabilidades de estos roles van alineados a esto, a entender muy bien cuáles serán estos datos que Colombia necesita en este momento y en los próximos años y cuáles son los problemas principales a atender con estos datos, ¿no? Irlo entendiendo como un poco a la par. Entonces, ya
André,
para
te
terminar,
queda... Sí,
sí, ya, no, ya para terminar, esto es un poco de lo que hacemos justo en Datamorfosis. Este proyecto sirvió de base para terminar de entender todos estos elementos que suceden alrededor de un proyecto de datos que también son importantes y reconocer a las organizaciones pues como organismos vivos. Detrás de un proyecto de datos están personas que recolectan, que entienden, que analizan y estas organizaciones deben de ser tratadas también como sistemas y ecosistemas dentro de sí que tienen que estarse preparando, actualizando. Entonces, bueno, igual en otra llamada les compartiré un poquito más de este nuevo proyecto, pero bueno, creo que lo dejaré ahí también para pasar a la etapa de preguntas.
Gracias, André. Bueno, creo que al principio de este trabajo conversamos y es algo que vamos a discutir, creo, hoy es el tema de que cada uno interpreta la gobernanza de datos desde su lugar o hay miles de definiciones, incluso algunas que no tienen nada que ver con gobernanza de datos. Pero ahora quizás I'm going to switch to English because it's now Christian's time to present, and then we will leave for questions and discussion. So, Christian, I assume you have permissions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, let me see, slideshow. There you go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I mean, thank you for hosting me and for having me. And yeah, I really enjoyed Andrea's presentation. I think they complement each other because, as Flor said, we have a different complementary definition of what data governance is. But as well, our examples, I think, focus more on very local and city level. So I think it's interesting to see that juxtaposition of a very broad national framework with what I'm trying to present today. Yeah, so I mean, before I get into what Open North is, I just wanted, and this is something we do in Canada, is we tend to do an acknowledgement because we're going a peace and reconciliation and truth and reconciliation process with Indigenous communities here. So in honor of that, I would mention that at Open North, we really recognize the ways that data and technology have been used to oppress Indigenous populations, as well as traditional marginalized people, folk that look like me. So I want to acknowledge that and invite everyone to explore different Indigenous data frameworks like the OCAP, ownership, control, access and protection principles, and to become better allies in this sense. So Open North is an organization that's based in Montreal. We've done a lot of work on data governance, on open and shared data, smart cities, and similarly to what Andrea was mentioning, we've gone, oh, that's about me. You can feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But similarly to what Andrea had said, we have kind of gone this transformation from open data to talking about data governance, hence why this presentation is very timely. So during this talk, I want to address what data governance is in our view. What does it mean to think about data governance in the context of data partnerships? And I'll define these things as we go along. And then again, going beyond that idea of open data or data management and really viewing this and applying this framework in a local context. So as I mentioned, we had this reckoning at Open North after working on open data that we needed to go beyond that we needed to view open data not as the end result, but open as a value in and of itself. And I think our conclusion was that open was a value as well, one in the same level as the other ones that open data push. So it had it was not only related to transparency, but it was at the part of transparency and of economic value and of inclusion. And then we realized that this openness value sometimes came into conflict with other values, such as privacy, such as protection of vulnerable populations, and others. And then so we developed, especially through our work of smart cities, we developed a governance framework for the city of Montreal, for the city of Toronto as well, on what that meant. And that's sort of where we're at now. We developed this framework and then realized that we wanted to go a little bit beyond that and that we needed to figure out in tandem what what data governance really meant. As you guys mentioned, there's a lot of definitions out there, and it's hard to reach consensus. So we're trying to now build a very extensive taxonomy of the different things we've seen people discuss in the context of data governance, especially in Montreal, and as well as a monitoring and evaluation framework to see if our assumptions on data governance are correct. And I hope this resonates with a lot of you. I know a lot of organizations are going through the same process of, well, open data was so popular and we were all like open data evangelists, and 10 years later, a lot of the benefits that we expected are not coming through as well as we wanted, and a lot of the policy impacts are not happening. So being able to take that step back and rework our assumptions. So what is data governance? In Open North's view, and I'm just gonna read it for the translation, is that data is always constructed. It's inert. In and of itself, it has no power. What we wanna focus on is on every factor shaping decision-making around data. This can happen in a structure or a non-structure approach. So decisions like what type of value we want to pursue from data that we use, and which stakeholders throughout the data process are being included. So who's being brought on the table, and who's helping make these decisions about data. Same as if the persons are unable to influence any decision that is being made about data. So in policy context, people in power might be making decisions about data, but structurally underrepresented or marginalized individuals. And when we think about data governance, we want to focus on how these people that have less power and how these people that are underrepresented can actually influence data governance processes. And this brings us to data partnerships. So data partnerships are two or more organizations that align on a common goal and that want to engage in sharing, utilizing data to realize its values. So very shortly, our approach wants to ask what impacts will the decisions around data generate, and what principles should guide your strategy when it's related to data, your data governance strategy, what you should value and what you should put value in. We think that a data governance framework inherently needs to embed transparency and accountability for decision making. If we're thinking of democratic societies, that this is key for understanding how data is being used. And again, because we take a data partnership approach to this, we believe in an iterative and evaluation-driven implementation process. It needs to build trust and collaboration. In our perspective, no data governance framework is the same. It really needs to consider the different stakeholders at the table. An open governance framework, an open data framework needs to build that trust and collaboration inherently. Okay, so like I've spoken about very theoretical, kind of high-minded, nerdy things, and if you guys know Open North, we're all like huge nerds when it comes to data. But we've done this implemented in a couple of examples. So I want to use Pulsar, which is a health research network that we're working with right now, to exemplify what some of these principles look applied to a data governance framework. So Pulsar, as I mentioned, is a health research network from the University of Laval, which is in Quebec in Canada. And the goal of our partnership with them is to develop a data governance framework that respects the needs of health researchers, but also of the community and the people that are being researched, and policymakers that might use that research. And then so we start with our user journey. So one of our main stakeholders, who is Aisha, she's a researcher that is interested in researching nutrition and healthy habits, such as physical activity, rest, and the impact on stress level. But as a health researcher, Aisha needs to do some fieldwork and recruit participants. And this is where some of the values come into conflict. She needs to use very personal and sensitive data, often about indigenous populations, women, children, very vulnerable groups. How does she do that and still advance this research that will have very good effects on society, such as better use of resources, health resources, better informed policies with real-time data, all these benefits that we know that come around structured data processes. And that's where a lot of the questions that come when we speak to these researchers. And Aisha is a hypothetical person, but this are feedback that we get when we start talking in the context of the data partnership with what people want out of their data and what are some of their challenges they're facing. So what are some of the legal and regulatory frameworks that affects the way we collect data? And in Quebec, we have pretty stringent privacy laws that prevent or safeguard individuals when they share their data, as is the case in many other jurisdictions. What data does she absolutely need? Does she need to collect all demographic information? What data should be limited and protected? And from a health equity perspective, we know that data about certain populations has been used to continuously marginalize and oppress certain groups. And what harm might come of that? What harm might come of data collected about certain individuals? And then more broader questions on who should be involved. Should government be involved in this process? What is their interest? What's the dynamic? What about representatives from communities? What about balancing Anglophones and Francophone participants, which is an issue in Canada? And then thinking about this other marginalized and people that don't get involved in this kind of work, especially if we're thinking about health data research. The public has a lot of questions, participants have a lot of questions. How do you revoke consent? How do I adapt it to my personal preferences if I don't want to share X or Y about my health information? Or if I'm not confident enough that it's going to be very well protected, how am I able to navigate that? Again, all hypotheticals, but based in real people, so we don't mention the real people to protect them. So these are some of the challenges that we face when we start building a data partnership, when we're talking to people about what kind of data governance framework they think will benefit the most. And then again, it shapes, data governance to us, it is every factor that shapes those decisions. Who's included, who's not included, what data is going to be included, how is it going to be included. There are some data management issues as well, like what kind of platform fits best. Thinking about different steps of the cycle, what way are you going to collect data? So for example, if someone is not literate, but they still would benefit from the health data research, how are you able to communicate those things? And we like to focus not just about the potential value that this inherent piece of information can have, but working together to find those potential values that as a group of stakeholders, as part of a data partnership, we seek. And again, how you choose those values, who controls it, and then how are multiple stakeholders represented. So I think our lesson from our experiences is that there isn't really one easily available, digestible solution to data governance. I don't think we can talk about, yes, a data trust will fix all your problems, or building a data architecture around a data warehouse will be the best way for this solution. What we really want to focus on is those processes around health data. And then using the time that we have with the implementation group, because you're all experts in data, is to ask and be able to discuss what do you think data governance is, and what should we implement as part of this framework that we're experimenting with. So we've already touched a little bit on the health data case, on in our view, and when we talk to our partners in Montreal and in Quebec, they want to ensure that they are regulatory and legally compliant. I think there's a normative aspect to this too, when there are expectations of the public that you are going to keep certain privacy standards, even if you're not legally required to do so. Same when we talk to them, they want a data framework, data governance framework that builds trust between the different stakeholders. It not only benefits the researchers themselves, but policymakers and the people that the data is about, right? If I participated in a study and I know that the researchers are not going to use my data in any nefarious ways, then I'm more likely to keep engaging in the study. Same with ensuring the reliability of data. So it's like a data quality issue. So making sure that data experts are able to understand how different data management processes are happening around. And I think this really speaks to Andrea's framework in Colombia, where they built in that expertise into the data governance framework at the national level. I think that's something that we found too at Pulsar in Montreal. And then for the policymakers side, whenever we talk to them, they want to improve operational efficiencies in organization, being able to be fed real-time data in a way that they're able to use it in a way that's reflective of the populations they're trying to target. So those are some preliminary findings of our project. We are halfway through the project right now. We are at a point where we've had all these conversations with different stakeholders, and we've presented different options of what a data governance framework would look like. Identify things like you need to have a policy for privacy, and you need to have a policy for informed consent that takes a health equity perspective, so that people that don't normally engage with researchers, or people that might not be literate, or people that might not understand how data works, that they're able to give consent, and very informed consent, that they really understand what they're participating in. And yeah, that's where we're at. If you have any other questions, or if you have any comments on what else we should include in this, just feel free to add them in the comment section. I think I took 2 minutes. I'm not 10 minutes. I'm not sure, but close.
Yeah, don't worry. But you made my work so easier by leaving those last questions. So probably, like, if you wanna share that last slide. Thank you so much, Christian and Andrea. I think that both presentations complement each other. One from a national perspective on how a national plan enabled a data governance infrastructure or strategy, and in your case, Christian, like how you can build from the bottom up based on needs, and I also shared another example of a data governance framework looking from the private sector. So I think that every stakeholder has a different book around data governance, and in that sense, something that I think that both of you mentioned it, like we started with open data strategies, we moved into data strategies, but I think now like the new wave is creating data governance. We see it in the European Union. They started with a data strategy, and now they figured out there are so many patchy regulations living with each other that like data governance is what really aligns into processes, people, partnerships, and put it all together to create value, or to govern data to create public value. So I would like now to open to the floor. If you have any questions, any comments, any other example of data governance, or any other data governance definitions that you would like to share with us. We have, for example, a comment from Daniel. What's the role of data trusts in these initiatives? And we also have some comments from Amy. I don't know, Amy, if you want to open your mic, or Daniel to share your thoughts. Daniel, you can speak in Spanish. We have interpretation. So. Nobody?
I can comment on the question from, I think it was Miguel from Mexico, actually. No, Daniel. No, Daniel, he mentioned that he was leaving, actually. Yeah, he left the question for discussion. He was asking about data trust and the role of data trust in these data governance models. I think data trust are another element to consider in this data governance frameworks, and those are very important actually for building trust and reducing uncertainty between the stakeholders. So it's another element to consider in these frameworks.
We have Chris that raised her hand first, and then Christian. Hi, Chris.
Hi, thank you both so much for your presentations. Andrea, on the slide about from the government website, what did the government say the benefits of open data are on that slide?
I'm sorry, in which slide?
I think it was the government website, and it had there were beneficios.
Oh, that's it was the Datamorfosis website, I think. Or let me open my
I
slides.
think
I'm
when
sorry.
you presented the outputs, there was like an infographic.
Okay. The benefits of open data. This is data. This is all data. So their plan was about data infrastructure and not only open data. And this is the I think the first thing to point out here, because when they released the national data infrastructure plan, they defined they defined what the data infrastructure was for Colombia. And they say, okay, we have open data, we have sensitive data, we have, I think they call it like data from records or transactions between government and citizens. So they defined what data infrastructure was for them, and all the benefits, not just from open data, but from using all this type of data combined, and combined also with data from other sectors, from the private sector and for the civil society.
Thank you.
Christian.
I just lo pronto en español, porque la pregunta fue en español. Para lo el rol de los trusts, de los data trusts, sí, desde la perspectiva de nosotros lo vemos como otra manera en que se puede estructurar una política de gobernanza de datos. No necesariamente puede ser la más apropiada en todas las situaciones. Entonces, en algunas de nuestras experiencias, sobre todo con el sector privado, no existe esa comodidad de compartir datos con una tercera persona o con un tercer actor. Entonces, por eso nuestra énfasis tiende a ser más en más desde abajo, desde el grassroots, para ver cuál es el sistema más apropiado, para no perderse todos esos beneficios que puede haber con una política de gobernanza de datos, que sea como sea que esté estructurada.
Any other comments or reflections from the group?
Amy estaba levantando la mano, I think.
Amy? Hey.
Was I? No, don't think so.
No? Okay.
I was saying I can speak to my points. You suggested I could, but I don't need to. They're in the chat, unless anyone wants me to go into more detail.
Okay.
Any other examples or anything the group would like to share? No? Yeah, Daniela.
Buenas tardes a todos. Me sumé unos minutitos más tarde, los pude saludar al inicio. Estaba muy atenta escuchándolos. Nosotros justamente hoy anunciamos que vamos a empezar con el proceso de formalización de lo que es el marco normativo de lo que tiene que ver con la política de datos abiertos acá en Argentina. Así que me quedé escuchándolos y nada, son cosas que vas pensando que pueden ir sumándose a lo que estamos armando. Nosotros lo que pensamos es en unas 15 días arrancar con un proceso que sea abierto, que sea un proceso de co-creación de la normativa, donde se invite a actores de sociedad civil, a organismos que abren datos y a organismos que usan datos, armar todo esto que tiene que ver con la infraestructura, y es una cosa que uno empieza con algo muy chiquitito, que dice, bueno, digamos cuáles son las bases del perfil de metadatos, un poco los estándares, y uno cuando empieza a sociabilizar lo que está pensando, empiezan a surgir un montón de verticales que uno quiere cubrir. Nosotros estamos recién arrancando con todo lo que son las comunicaciones, no hemos hecho difusión de los ejes que tenemos pensado, pero arrancamos con algo que era, bueno, publiquemos cuáles son las guías para publicar datos abiertos, cuáles son los estándares que tienen que cumplir, las estructuras. Después dijimos, bueno, tenemos que incluir el perfil de metadatos claramente, se incluye, hay que definir los roles de las personas, digo, lo estamos pensando no como una normativa técnica, sino como algo que sea más una infraestructura, donde se contemple por un lado las cuestiones técnicas y por otro las humanas, las operativas, las personas que están involucradas en el proceso de apertura. Así que nada, seguramente les empecemos a compartir a medida que vayamos teniendo cosas, y todo lo que estamos escuchando de otras experiencias nos sirve también como insights o cosas a tomar cuando empecemos a trabajar más en concreto con las cosas que queremos incluir. Así que excelente la temática de hoy, nos vino perfecta.
Bueno, y ahí las invitamos a que presenten, porque este puede ser un espacio de consulta también una vez que tengan las mesas de trabajo definidas. No sé bien, digamos, cuándo lo están planificando, pero si querés buscamos un momento también para dedicar a mirar y dar, la idea de este grupo es justamente como pasar más de la teoría a la práctica, y por eso también como los ejemplos que estamos trayendo este año, así que encantadas también de
Sí,
ser parte del proceso.
será un gusto poder contarlo, y incluso contar con los colegas que están en la llamada para participar del proceso. Digo, pensamos mesas de trabajo y después, sí, final que quede durante, no sé, un mes la consulta pública con el texto ahí. Así que, nada, será todo bienvenido.
Genial. So Kelly, would you like to open your mic about the City of Hamilton's open data policy?
Hello, everyone. I as well came in late. I'm a new, I guess, member of this group.
Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation. I am Kelly Austin. I'm the Senior Project Manager of Digital and Innovation for the City of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Because I came in late, I missed the first half hour. So I just shared a couple of items for you folks to have a view. We have an open data portal here at the City of Hamilton. And the whole reason we do this is for transparency in government, which is, I guess, everyone's goal, transparency in general. We have also drafted an open data policy. Now this, in the spirit of open by default and transparency, we are engaging our public, and our public includes not only residents, but community partners, businesses, large or small, and our city staff to provide feedback on the open data policy recommendations. Maybe after, when you look at things for a while, you're missing content or everything's a blur. So we're always open to feedback on our policy. And then we'll incorporate that feedback where possible into the policy, and then release it on our open data site called Open Hamilton. And this is all part of our digital strategy that we have just drafted and was just approved by our council. And as to not turn a short story into a long one of the main pieces and the key to the digital strategy is going to be building that governance structure moving forward, because without governance, you don't have the roles and responsibilities and rules and guidelines to move forward. But in that governance is the I guess the infrastructure of anything digital at the city, that we can build those bells and whistles and all those fun things around. But without that governance, there's no guidelines to work from. So we're in the process of building that governance right now. And I'm open for anyone to reach out to share some information, because we're a global community, and I like to say work smarter, not harder. And why reinvent the wheel when we can all share tips and tricks with each other? Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, and welcome to the team. We usually pick a topic, and we have monthly calls. So if you see, now we are going to share our action plan, and we have like an agenda. So if you want to be a speaker in any of the sessions, please shout, let us know. Amy.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say in answer to that, and in terms of governance and developing stuff, I've popped some links into the chat if anyone wants to use those. Again, reuse, recycle, adapt, my God. But Kelly, also, are you on LinkedIn or something so that people can find you if they want to contact you?
Mute. You think I would be able to find the mute button easily with these days, but you will be on some of those links that I did share. My work email address is there. Believe it or not, I work in the digital and innovation office. I limit my social media because I can't keep up. So, but you will find my contact information all in those pages that I shared.
Cool, thanks.
And it's basically kelly.austin@hamilton.ca, but which you can see my name there. Just know my last name is E-N, not I-N. Everyone confuses the Austin. So, but I'm very open to help anyone.
Cool, thanks.
And thank you for those resources on the data governance.
Yeah, Christian.
I think a question I had for the group is, and Kelly's and others' interventions is just thinking how like data governance still interacts with open data. I think again, there's been a lot of work done on evangelizing open data. So it's by no means like we should stop doing open data, but I'm just wondering how these two streams complement each other and how they work in tandem. It's just something I've grappled with, because I come from the world of open data, and I have some sort of attachment to open data still. So how do we ensure that these two things don't step over each other almost? It's just a question. I have no idea what the answer is.
Sorry, was that for a question for me? Did I hear that?
For anyone in the group that has expertise.
Okay, so since I'm already off mute, I'll just say that I think in terms of open data, we are using data governance as a way to get our corporation and our organization on board for open by default. So we're going to start there, because obviously open data, you don't want to put much governance other than privacy relation or privacy concerns and so on, security for that. But we're definitely starting with mandating and encouraging buy-in for our open data as a corporation. So that's how it relates to open data in our, I guess, in our situation.
Amy, you're on mute.
If you think about data openness as a spectrum, right? So something I've been talking about for years is that Open data for a little while was its own kind of silo almost, just because of the advocacy around it. But I think what that's unintentionally done is it's kind of isolated itself. So it is part of a huge spectrum of data openness, right? From the super secret scroll, nobody knows you have it, and whether you should or not is different, through to like radically open, right? And so integrating open data back into that whole spectrum, I think is really important, so that we integrate back into the general conversation. But so think of that as verticals, right? And then you think of data governance as horizontals. It should be underlying absolutely everything one does with data in any possible way. Of course, with really good data governance, which is, oh God, it's like data standards. It's a dream, right? But it's a beautiful, beautiful dream. But with really good data governance, what that enables you to do is really, really, really easily be able to open stuff, share stuff, close it back down if, as you need to, and do anything else you want, knowing that you're doing it in a really trusted way with the relevant people and for the relevant people. So I think that's how I sort of cut those things, is they're not mutually exclusive. Good data governance enables everything else, just like good open data is an enabler into the system.
Kelly?
And if I could just, on top of what Amy just said, when you're new to open data, or you're a project manager by trade, such as myself, I'm always looking for that dictionary, that tips and tricks, that document that will help me understand the quick and dirty version of how to get this work done. Data governance can also provide those tips and tricks and those rules, rather than new folks coming in and trying to interpret what this all means. They can see, okay, this is what I have to provide. This is who I provide it to. This is my responsibility and their responsibility, and what this all means. It deciphers those unknowns or known unknowns for everyone, especially the new people being introduced, because although we've had open data here for a while at the City of Hamilton, it is not, it's I don't want to even say a new concept, but it's new to a lot of people. So having that data governance, as well as all those policy pieces, gives a how-to document in a way for working with open data and how to work with data in general.
Great, thank you so much, Kelly. So we are running out of time, so I would say that we will call it a session. Thank you so much for Christian and Andreas for your presentations. A lot of links have been shared in the chat. We will try to keep them somewhere so you can all access them. And last, before we disconnect, we would like to share the draft of our action plan for 2023. So based on the discussions we had last month, we tried to come up with a plan and a draft agenda. So it will be open for comments for the following month, and then we will publish it during March. So please leave your comments, suggestions. There's also a space for you to propose speakers. So I think that's it from our side. Thank you so much for participating, and see you next month. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right.